Pakistan has said that they used their Chinese fighter jets. They have said it openly. China is, of course, boasting about it. And, till recently, international media reports were always that Chinese technology is reverse technology. Their aircraft was a butt of all jokes, whether in America or Europe, from the defense manufacturers to the media reports and all. But now they have managed to, come out in this smiling in the narrative, saying that our J-10s were fabulous. What do you have to say to that?
I think that if you see the Chengdu aerospace company stock value, the way it has gone down, I think that would give you an answer.
Okay, and Dassault went up despite the fact
And
that...
sir, like if they are saying, and they were on the in the initial period, they were even flying the JF-17s, J-10s, and the Chinese aircraft. Were we able to, as air defense, were we able to hit any of them, sir? The aircraft,
So
bigger size or smaller size?
it is like this, that I'm sure Pakistan as a nation is well aware of the capability our air defense has. It is well aware of the capability of our Indian Air Force. It is well aware of our capability of our EW systems. And hence, flying in depth was not going to give them any major benefit. So, in my perception, that they really didn't fly too much. The very fact that they were using civilian aircrafts to fly international and national carriers only tells you that they were trying to ensure that, knowing our nation doesn't harm anybody from a civilian in any form, they knew we wouldn't try and shoot down their aircrafts, even if they were behind the Pakistan international carriers or the national carrier of Pakistan. In spite of conflict, the first thing that you do in conflict is to make sure that your airspace is closed for national and international flights. But they never let that happen. They let these flights fly. And I think that's a very major lesson that we've got to take away. That imagine what would have happened to their people. I think the restraint showed by the Indian armed forces and the Air Force, we had, if we wanted to be as aggressive as we could be, and we brought down a Pakistan international carrier, a national aircraft with civilians on board, I mean, that would have been criminal.
Was there an opportunity like that a fighter aircraft, could you see a Pakistani fighter flying behind a civilian carrier, and you allowed them to move away or go away? Was there an opportunity?
No, I'm just saying that this was I'm trying to bring out the thought process of Pakistan as a state.
To move its civilian aircraft.
That's what I'm trying to bring out. I'm trying to bring out that you moved your civilians indirectly, as for whatever purpose. I mean, why
even though NOTAM was on.
Yeah, NOTAM for them was not on. I mean, they had to decide to close their airspace, which they didn't do. They should have closed their airspace.
Wasn't it on for Pakistan too at that?
No, Pakistan, that is for the government of that country to issue.
Did they issue or
no? No, they did not.
That is the huge issue. And that is why the Indian government brought this out, that Pakistan civil airlines were flying. And the first thing you do when there is this type of threat is that you close your airspace.
It was closed, right? All international carriers were not flying over Pakistan.
I said national and Pakistan carriers.
Their international.
Yeah. So doesn't the world look into this matter? Like, which means that suppose a PIA flight is flying from Venice to Islamabad. I'm just randomly saying. Why will they allow their citizens to sit in a PIA aircraft, knowing that Pakistan International Airlines can fly in a conflict zone? Doesn't that matter to the world?
I think it tells you about a mindset. I think that's what we should look at.
And sir,
it's not a military mindset, right, sir? To put a civilian in front of you. Like,
we never do it. The moment this thing happened, we ensured that our civil population was protected. 32 airfields were under NOTAM.
The reason I'm asking you is that you have to know the mind of your enemy, right? As a forge, you need to know the mind of your enemy. If your enemy is not behaving like a uniformed military army is supposed to behave, it's behaving more like a jihadi army, which is using a civilian front. Even the terrorist targets, if you see the target that we hit in Bawalpur or in Murid Ke, they had their terrorist training camp, and outside they had a mosque and a public health center. So now you're talking in terms of it's a military jihadi complex, and so your enemy is not just a military, is not just a uniform military, right? So do you get to understand that that mindset where they can do that? Is that how you got to see?
I think the best way to describe this is irrationality.
Which is more dangerous?
It's extremely dangerous. Irrationality is a very dangerous form of warfare, because that's why their targets were civilian populations, religious centers. I mean, that's irrational.
So it's a grey war.
So
we fought. The 4-day conflict is a grey war that we fought. Would you say that?
No, it was a war. But I think that, it's irrationality, insensitivity. Insensitivity is another aspect, which is they are insensitive towards certain things. You're being irrational and you're insensitive.
Do you watch your, do you need to understand the mindset of the guy in charge there, General Munir? Do you do a psychoanalysis of your enemy at that time? Because you got to predict what he's doing, right? That's a major thing that Fauj is supposed to do. इसकी दूसरी तरफ जो बैठा हुआ है, जो कर रहा है आपके ऊपर अटैक, उसका मानसिक स्थिति कैसे है? How are they going to plan their next move? You got to know that. Do you do that kind of?
Yeah, so it's fascinating again. There is a very interesting concept called red teaming. It's a very interesting concept. So the US uses it. Israel used it to some extent. We have started using red teaming, wherein whenever we decided to do something, within our own group of people, we had a red team which would challenge why we did it, would tell us what they anticipated would be the mindset of the opposition. So the red team would actually look at the IW, the psychological, the impact of civil population in unrest, and it would tell you the impact of your ops as to how it would fan out. And I think red teaming actually teaches you this. It's a fascinating concept which challenges whatever action you're going to do, to able to understand what can be the outcomes of that action, so that you know what to be prepared for in the next phase if you take this action. And this is what happens in the army today. We've started it recently under the present chief of army staff, where and even during the last chief, this concept of red teaming came out. And we are now following this red teaming. Effectively, in this particular campaign, we did use the concept of red teaming.
Okay.
Sir, we have seen a lot of videos have come from Pakistan that where we can see them firing ballistic missiles from populated areas. Like I can never imagine that in India I'll be moving out in my car and seeing some army guys firing missiles from a truck. So, is that also a new lesson from this war that they to avoid retaliation from Indian forces, they may even go to population areas, fire from there, and then hide somewhere? Isn't it something like what happens in Israel-Hamas conflict, where they fire from the Hamas terrorists, fire from populated areas, then hide in the same houses, hospitals, and then act as if nothing has happened, and then when hit, they claim when civilians die, they claim victimhood.
Yeah. So it's something that we've grown up learning, that whenever you fire an effective weapon, you're liable to be detected, and hence after you shoot, you scoot, and you move into something called a hide, which is pre-planned and pre-designated. So our forces, whenever we fire, not to be getting, you'll immediately get a counter-attack in that particular with the weapon locating radar. So the first thing we do is after we fire, we go to a hide. And a hide is nowhere near a population center. It's in a proper predetermined camouflage place, so that you protect your weapon system and you protect your crew. But this is something that, yes, Pakistan gets into population centers. I mean, what do you do? It's just one of those things. It's a concept that we are seeing now, and it's a concept that we are aware of, and we've got to think as how we're going to deal with this in future.
So after we hit Chaklala and things, there's now in the Pakistani media there's a lot of talk that there's a rethinking in the Pakistan Fauj that they may need to move out of Pindi because it's too close to the border. They may need to move safer zone. But then the problem also occurs is because of their geography. Where will they move? How much can they move away from the border? It all comes within the range. And I think another thing which people find fascinating is that we did not attack anything in KPK. We didn't attack anything in Balochistan. So that also is playing a lot on the minds of the Pakistan people, which is reflected in the media. That look at them. They're making us talk about moving out from Pindi, from GHQ, moving the GHQ further away, and at the same time they have made it clear that हम बलोचिस्तान पे अटैक नहीं करेंगे, हम KPK पे नहीं अटैक करेंगे.
No, I just like to say that India has an adequate arsenal of weapons to take on Pakistan right across its depth. So from its broadest to its narrowest, wherever it is, the whole of Pakistan is within range of. So we are absolutely capable from our borders or even in depth, where we can take on the entire Pakistan. And the GHQ can move from Rawalpindi to KPK or wherever they want to move, but they are all within range.
Okay.
So they'll have to really find a deep hole. Yeah, something really deep.
And even not just our striking range, sir, even our defending range is wider than Pakistan, with the S-400 coming in 400 kilometers plus. So that's not the.
And did you see the entire crowd in India? Everybody on social media, S-400. Kahan hai S-400 ka picture? Kahan hai? Where did we strike? How many more? And then there's a very famous YouTuber of Pakistan who yesterday put out a video in which saying, भाई हमको भी सोचना पड़ेगा, ये S-400 तो हमको भी खरीदना पड़ेगा. So there's this admission that they need to widen their purchase. They're very upset. You know, initially they were upset कि हमारे YouTube बंद हो गया. We can't put out content. दूसरा, when धड़ाधड़ every 4 hours there are pictures coming out from our forge where we are showing now the visuals. So tell me about that, the impact of this time in this 4-day conflict, of all the imagery that has come out. So everything backed with facts. How much does that play? How much impact does that have on the forces also? We know the impact it has on our people, but what is the impact on your men and women who are in the field, and on the enemy?
So it's like this, that our job is to protect our sovereignty, our people, and if we've been able to ensure that no harm has come anywhere, I think it's tremendous satisfaction for the defense services of the country. I mean, all the forces together. That it's just unfortunately 5 soldiers who lost their lives, and it's very unfortunate that it happened in this whole conflict. So I think that the very fact that we've been able to protect our motherland from this onslaught, which was aimed at causing a lot of problems in population centers and in our cantonments. I mean, the very fact that we've given this reassurance to our people, not only to our civil population, but let me tell you that a lot of our own Jawans, officers' wives were staying in cantonments. And they were also equally concerned about these drone attacks. And the very fact that we ensured that this did not manifest in any casualty, I'm sure it not only made the soldier feel proud, it made the families feel proud, and finally the population of India feel proud. I think that's the takeaway.
Another thing which people have is like, itni jaldi kyun khatam kiya? Lots of people saying, why did we end it so quickly? And why we all the time saying, we hit because you were going to hit us? Why is this? Why does the Indian army always have this defensive posture, that we are a defensive army?
I think that the way India is growing as a nation, it's a responsible nation. It realizes that with economic growth comes a certain amount of responsibility, and with that responsibility we put restraint on ourselves. And I think that's the major takeaway. It's not that why did we stop. I think responsible nations, progressive nations, economically stronger nations put self-imposed restraint so that we know when to put a halt to things.
Okay.
Sir, I just wanted to ask you about your Corps of Army Air Defense, sir. Now, I've been covering defense for last 22 years, sir. AD was never at the forefront of war. AD was considered कि हाँ ये भी आएंगे, इनका भी बहुत रोल होता है. It was all the so and so corps will cut Pakistan into half.
Infantry.
Infantry, armored, RT, that they deliver death from a distance and all that. Now, ADs, everybody is talking about how strong our AD is. How is the feeling as the DG of the Army Air Defence, sir? And how do you see the role expanding in near future, and how the importance of AD has gone up, sir, within the organization?
Yeah, so I think that while Army Air Defence was always looked as an important combat support arm of the army, but we always felt that the decisive factor would be at with the armored corps and the artillery and the mechanized at some stage, but with population densities having increased, with obstacle-ridden terrain having increased, and with an RMA, a revolution in military affairs, bringing in drones and changing the concept of air threat, I think that the Army Air Defence or the air defence has undergone a whole, a new a rethink as to how this threat will manifest. And I think that is how Army Air Defence is. The people have realized that without a strong air defence, I mean, if you can't protect your own airspace, then if this is safe, then you can go ahead and achieve what you want beyond that. So the roles are very defined. But I think this particular change in drones and UAVs and whatever UCAVs has brought into the fore that air defence and EW make a huge battle-winning combination wherever you want to field them.
It's the government called it an impenetrable wall. The statement was India's air defence systems, combining assets from the Army, Navy and primarily the Air Force, performed with exceptional synergy. These systems created an impenetrable wall, foiling multiple attempts by Pakistan to retaliate. So it's a lot of responsibility also on you now, because we are still in Operation Sindoor is still on. So to keep that impenetrable wall still stationary and working, जैसे बुलंद दरवाजा जैसे कहते हैं, to keep that on is a great responsibility still.
Yeah, so we are continuously looking at where are the possible gaps, what could be our vulnerabilities, which particular part should we strengthen, how should we deploy and strengthen that particular aspect. So it's work in progress. It's improvement in progress. It puts a greater responsibility as the Director General of Air Defence to be able to reassure the people of our country that we are there to ensure that, I don't know about an impenetrable wall, but we'll try and do as much as we can to ensure the protection of our motherland and the airspace is protected.
Sir, lastly, I want to ask you, sir. We talked about the religious places that the Pakistanis were trying to hit. Golden Temple was one where they were trying to hit. Now, in north of Amritsar is Vaishno Devi. Now, was there any attempt to hit there also, and was that well protected by AD, sir? And any other significant?
I have not really heard, but wherever there was a possible religious sensitivity involved, we had deployed protection. Wherever there was a possible religious sensitivity involved of any community, we ensured that there was certain amount of protection. But specifically, whether a particular religious place other than the Golden Temple was targeted or not, I wouldn't be able to comment. It's too early.
So last question is that we've seen pictures of the Pakistan Army opening relationship negotiations with Bangladesh, prior to Operation Sindoor earlier. We've seen that happening. Do you see this bloodied army now using that sector, the airfields there? Are we going to be talking about building this impenetrable wall of air defense on that side too? Because Bangladesh could be used as a fertile ground to attack us from there.
So I think that we analyze our vulnerabilities at regular intervals. We look at how do we take on threats and how they're going to manifest. And we're definitely looking at how do we strengthen wherever our vulnerabilities lie. So whether it's in the form of stronger surveillance measures, a stronger detection capability, and a better engagement ability. So this is an ongoing process.
Okay.
And as threats manifest in whichever form, wherever they come out from, you have actually to, I mean, the best way is to be able to visualize them. That's what we are paid for. Visualize the threat and plan how to mitigate, if not reduce, that threat.